What's going on, guys? We are back again working on the $2,000 G35 drift build, and in today's episode we're going to be installing our bucket seat, installing some new headlights, reinstalling our front bumper, fixing up our stock wheels, installing a fire extinguisher, as well as installing a new exhaust. So let's get started with that bucket seat. So what we have here is our new seat for the G35. And the seat that I chose to get is the NRG FRP 300 bucket seat. The reason I went with this seat is because, well, it's the same seat I have in my 240SX, and I've really enjoyed it in there. And it is the cheapest fixed back bucket seat that you can purchase, new to my knowledge. And I don't really want to mess with any of the adjustable back bucket seats that are super cheap. They just seem super weird, and we don't need to mess with that. And this will be really good. We won't have to put a harness in the car, so we're just gonna be able to use a nice bucket seat, keep us in place when we're drifting. What we have here is a slider for it, so if someone else wants to drive the car, it's not like the seat is bolted into one position. We can slide it forward and backwards. Well, maybe this isn't the same seat I have in my 240. Maybe this is a newer version of it. I don't actually remember. But it's definitely a little squishier than the one I have in my car, which I'm not complaining about. It's definitely a little squishier than the one I have in my car. Granted, I did buy the one for my car maybe 4 years ago, so I assume it's a newer version of it, or maybe a slightly different seat. I don't remember, but either way, it's gonna do really well for us. So here we have our slider and all associated accessories. The seat was $250 and the slider was $130. So taking a look at what's left in the car, we have been able to recover 25 cents, 50 cents, 60 cents, 70, 80, 85, 95, $1, $1.01 recovered right here. So we can go ahead and throw that back into our budget. So as for installing the jet bucket seat, we're gonna go ahead and pull off these brackets that came on the seats because they're not gonna work for us. We're gonna go ahead and avoid that ant. We're gonna go ahead and install these brackets that came with our sliders, and then we're gonna go ahead and bolt the sliders to these brackets. Now, once we got the seat in the car, we might have to adjust how it's adjusted here, but that's generally the easiest way to get the whole seat bracket combination into the car, is by installing everything onto the seat first and then just going for the bolt down in the four corners at the end. So I put the seat in the car a few times and I got everything adjusted just how I want it, I think. So now we're gonna go ahead and do the final assembly of it, and hopefully it goes together pretty nicely. I will say putting a seat in this thing is like 10 times easier than putting a seat in my 240, probably because my 240 is so bent and this thing just isn't, which is awesome. So our plan is to keep a stock steering wheel, and there is like a steering wheel cover on the steering wheel, because I assume the steering wheel is in pretty poor condition. However, definitely don't want to have a steering wheel cover when you're drifting. In my opinion, I mean, I guess some people might think differently. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pull this thing off. Yeah, as expected, steering wheel's in pretty bad condition, but it's definitely better than having a steering wheel cover. So we just threw the bucket seat in. We got it in right here, nice and solid. Sitting inside of it, I'm in a nice sitting position, definitely a little bit lower than the factory seat. Did a few adjustments to get the seat in the right spot for me at least, and it's also on a slider, which is pretty cool. So it can go forward and backward a bit. We also have the seat belt right here, which is connected to the bucket seat and is good. I was debating whether or not it'd be worth it to do the bucket seat. However, I'm really glad I did it, because I do think it's gonna be one of the most important parts of the car, and just being comfortable. Trying to have to hold yourself into like a stock style seat is really tough, especially when you're learning how to drive. It kind of detracts from your ability to focus on driving. So I think this is really important. It did use up a large part of our budget. I think we spent about $400 between the seat and the rail. However, I do think it'll be well worth it when we're done with the build. So as for the wheels on the car, I couldn't really decide what to do. Initially, I wanted to try and sell these wheels and buy something else that was a little bit cooler. That's kind of what I'd planned to do in the beginning of the build. However, after having the wheels up for sale, I kind of came to the realization they're a lot worse shape than I thought. Looks like I'd get like 150, maybe 200 bucks for them. And it kind of turned into the fact that there's not much else you can buy out there for 150, 200, 250 bucks that I really wanted. I really wanted to stick to an 18. I tried the 17s on the car that I run on my 240, and it definitely looks way too small. So I decided to just stick with the 18. These wheels are an 18x8, which is a pretty good size. I think we're gonna be running a 225, 45, 18 on all four corners of the car. So this is probably the right wheel for that. So this is what the wheels look like. They all have the curb rash to them. This is actually one of the better ones. This is probably the best one here. And I've just been kind of preparing them to get painted. I'm gonna paint them a silver color. I think that will look a lot better than this like black that these have, and especially will cover up this. Kind of just been sanding them down, trying to just clean up the curb rash a little bit. I'm not gonna do anything crazy, just trying to smooth everything out. Sanding them down, same on this wheel, and then I'm gonna do the same on these two, and then we're gonna go ahead and clean them up and hit them with the silver. So I started with some 320 grit and went out to 800 grit. Probably could have gone higher. However, you gotta remember we are resanding and painting wheels that are curbed, could be bent, and are gonna go into a drift car. So, and at the end of the day, I do hope that we're able to upgrade, maybe use these as just like drift spares for the rear, get some nicer wheels. But for now, try not to put too much into it because I'm sure in either way, I'm not gonna be able to repair all the curbing. So they're not gonna look too great, but we're doing the best we can. So here's how they are looking after one coat of paint. Admittedly, I did choose a very windy day, so the note cards keep blowing over onto the wheels. So some of the wheels are looking good, but some of them look absolutely terrible. As it turns out, I was like going around and like I would do like the side of each spoke, which meant that I put a ton more paint in the middle on the edges. So there's a ton of paint in the edges in the middle, and it appears when you overdo it, it kind of just like bubbles up and around. So that looks terrible. I'm gonna let this dry and see if I can do like another coat over it to kind of make it look a little bit better. But and even definitely gonna be like 10-foot wheels for sure. Probably gonna be like a 10-20 foot car. So it'll be good. I think it'll maybe look better than the old ones. Now it just looks like I painted the wheels poorly. Before it looks like I got the wheels and they looked like crap, but what can you do? So we got the wheels all painted up. I was able to do another coat and they're looking a lot better. As you can see here, this one looks decent. You can still see the curbing that was done to the wheels. It kind of looks just like someone attacked it with an angle grinder, but I think someone just drove directly into a curb with them. So before we install the wheel spacers, I do just want to throw these things on the car, or at least on one side of the car, and kind of get an idea for how it's going to look. So this is what the car is looking like with the wheels that it came on, painted in like a silver metallic-ish color. So what we have here are our wheel spacers, and these were $64.09. I opted for 4 25mm or 1-inch spacers. This seemed like it gave us the right offset to be pretty much flush with the fender, but still allow the tire to tuck into the fender. So we're gonna go ahead and bolt these on and then bolt our new painted wheels on. So this is what the car is looking like with the wheel installed. So in the interest of keeping with our budget, I did end up selling the headlights the car came with. I just polished them up pretty quickly and they looked a lot better. I ended up selling those. And I'm gonna go over a complete breakdown of the build in the last episode. However, the plan was just to run the car with no headlights. However, with the things that I've sold so far, it looks like we're pretty much on budget. So when I went to pick up the diff, when I was gonna get it welded, I ended up grabbing a few parts he had off of a G35 sedan that he was actually gonna scrap. He had sold a drivetrain and stuff out of. So he gave me the headlights out of it. Granted, they are in pretty poor condition. I think all the tabs on them are broken. I don't know if they actually work, and it seems like there's a bunch of broken plastic inside of them. However, I think with a quick polish, they're definitely gonna look better than having no headlights, and they were free, which is awesome. So this is what they're looking like. Not too bad. Missing a few pieces, but, and you can see some broken tabs, but all in all, pretty solid. There's definitely some plastic floating around inside of them, but I think with a quick polish, they'll look pretty good, and will definitely complete the front end of the car as well, because we did not have to sell the front bumper. We're also going to be retaining the front bumper, which again is super awesome, and I'm glad, because it's pretty weird without the front bumper, especially since we were pulling so much other stuff off the car. So I'm super happy we're going to be able to have headlights and a front bumper. Got the headlights in. They're a little bit loose because some of them like have broken brackets, like it's missing this one. Same on this side, like this one's broken. This one's a little bit tighter, but we'll have some zip ties in there and it will look good. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and polish them up. So we have a little before, it's a little hazy, and then after it is definitely, there's some like, I went a little too hard on the buffing. I like left some marks, but you can see there's actually a lot of dirt inside the headlight, and there's actually dirt on like the inside of the lens. So, I mean, I think this will definitely be good enough for us. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing on this one, and hopefully it can come out just as good as or better than that one. So here we have the second headlight done, and again, you can see there's like dirt inside of it, so you can see why they were free. I don't even know if they work. I didn't even plug them in, but this one definitely looks better than this one over here. I think I just sanded this one a little bit more. These like headlight polishing kits also do come with like some clear coat. However, I use that on another set of headlights, so I can't actually clear coat these. However, should be fine. Maybe the finish just won't last as long. I don't know, but good. You can definitely clean the rest of the car off later, but headlights look solid. Also, as it happens, our budget did not require us to sell our front bumper. I mean, I would have sold it, but no one bought it. So we are going to be able to retain that. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw that on right now. So we've now got our new headlights in and polished and our front bumper on. Fortunately, we did sell the grille. However, I mean, that's probably the thing I'm most willing to not have as a part of the front end. So happy with that. We also did sell the crash bar. So this thing probably wouldn't do too well in a front end collision. But again, for what we're trying to do, driving this car at like open skid pad racetracks, not having a front support isn't the end of the world. And if we ever down the road wanted to do like a bash bar or something, if we thought that was going to be necessary, or just putting another front crash bar in, we could do that. So when I grabbed these free headlights off the car that was getting salvaged, I also was able to grab this exhaust. I'm pretty sure this is still an exhaust. It's like a slip fit. It seems like it will be a lot better and hopefully quieter than the essential straight pipe that came on the car. See, I guess that's just a resonator because you can see through it. But this big muffler back here is hopefully a muffler. So yeah. And as it turns out, I don't have any of the right size gaskets for this thing. So I'm gonna have to order those. But aside from that, we're gonna try and put as much of it together as we can. Maybe just bolt it up without the gaskets and see how it sounds now that we have the diff in the car. So I put the mid pipe piece in where it has the X pipe, and I'm going to now install the rest of the exhaust. So I got the exhaust on the car. I was able to reuse some old gaskets as well as just slip the other slip joints in. I do think I'm gonna need some clamps for it because they very well might vibrate out. But now I'm gonna go ahead and turn the car on and see how it sounds. So that sounds good. It's pretty quiet. It sounds a little like tinny, but it's definitely quiet, which is gonna be awesome. Especially since we pulled the caps off. It's not gonna be heinously loud now, which I'm super excited about. So what we have here is the last thing for the G35. I almost forgot about it, but this is a fire extinguisher with a metal bracket. Where we're gonna be using the car requires a fire extinguisher. And if you're drifting a car, there's really no reason not to have a fire extinguisher. Can't hurt. These things are super cheap. This thing was 25 bucks from an auto parts store. So we're just gonna find a place to put this in the car and get it installed. So you do want the fire extinguisher to be in arm's reach of the driver. Since we don't have a harness, arm's reach, I think it kind of can stretch a little bit farther than normal. In my 240, I have it right here because I don't have a center console. However, in this car, I kind of want to just like put it down here in the passenger footwell. Sitting in the driver's seat, it's hard to argue this is not within arm's reach. So I think this is gonna be the plan right now. If we do have to move it, we have to move it. So it seems like the fuel lines and the brake lines do go right underneath the car right here. However, there's no way a self-tapper like this is going to go through like a fuel line that's kind of like soft mounted to the car. So we're gonna go ahead and send it through. All right, we got the fire extinguisher mounted, so that's all set. So aside from getting that installed, I think the car is pretty much ready to go drifting. So here we have our G35 sitting on the ground. I haven't really aligned it. I just did a rough in the rear and then I crashed and the bumper fell off, but it's just rough in the rear. I'll do that, finish it later with the toe plates. Same on that side, and then same in the front. It's, I don't know, the front's pretty close. Nah, it's got a bit of toe in, but this is how it sits right now. So now I'm just going to go ahead and give the car a quick wash and see if we can make it look a little bit nicer because it's been sitting under some quite intensive trees for a while, so it might benefit. So in this episode, we were also able to get a ton of stuff done. We were able to get our bucket seat involved, get the fire extinguisher installed, get our wheel choice set up and dialed in, get the exhaust bolted onto the car, as well as get those headlights on, as well as the bumper reinstalled. Aside from that, we've still been selling parts off of the car here and there, which is gonna get broken down in the beginning of the next episode before we go drifting. Total sales, as well as everything we spent, all added up at once. So in the next episode, we are also gonna take the car drifting, which is super exciting. If you guys are excited for that, of course, make sure to subscribe, stay tuned. That video is going to be coming out next week. Of course, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'm really excited to take the car out, finally get to drive it, and see what our $2,000 went towards. Of course, give this video a like if you did enjoy it, and I will see you in the next one.